Yeah, yeah.
You are a son of a bitch.
Un saluto a
Hey.
tutti.
Ciao Juventini, welcome back to the AJC. It is Victory Monday, our absolute favorite. We love it, and we're going to be rocking out with that. Omar, how are you doing, my man?
All good. All good. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, wherever you're listening from. Good day after a win. Always a good day.
Absolutely,
Wow.
absolutely. Now, I've got some playback coming in here, so just give me 1 second. Let me shut this down. Now we are cooking here. Got it figured out here. Sorry about that, everybody. Get the housekeeping out of the way, all right? Glad Omar's doing good. I know you had a lot going on yesterday. Still managed a way to find watching the match and everything. And strong 90 is what the headline reads. However, not everybody feels that way. And I was actually taken back at a lot of the feedback I was hearing from Juventini about the game, but that's what makes everything interesting. So, of course, we're going to break it all down. We're going to talk players' performances. We're going to talk about some of the news circulating in the aftermath of the game. We're going to get to all of it, okay? But first, again, if you're tuning into this on your audio outlets, head over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, all right? That's where all the extras happen and the magic happens, all right? So make sure you head over to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Everybody who was a part of the live watch along yesterday, that thing was awesome, and I had an absolute blast. Okay, so again, thank you for the continued support. Again, ways to support. Also, we've got the tribute to Buffon out now. A couple designs new in the merch store. Check out. That's a way you could support us, and you might find a design amongst the many that we have there. I think there's like 2 pages of custom merch in there, so check it out. And thank you to everybody who has chosen through that way. Of course, we have memberships, which you need to be on a laptop or desktop to become a member of the AJC Army with, or super chat, or even easier, just sharing the content. All right. But thank you to everybody for the support. Now, strong 90 against Empoli and whatnot. Obviously, that's the headline. But as you see here in the ticker at the bottom there, or was it? So everybody's got their own thoughts, opinions on this match. We are going to cover it all. We're going to kick off with starting lineup. I had no problems with the starting lineup, Omer, whatsoever. We saw Gatti come in there. We saw McKennie come in there and Kostic. Miretti obviously getting the nod over Fagioli and whatnot. Real quick, because you weren't part of the match day preview or whatnot, what did you think about the starting lineup heading into this one?
Well, it was all kind of, except for Gatti and for Sandro, it was all kind of, at least what Allegri said, that we had. I mean, the guys were tired, both Cambiaso and Wea, so McKennie and Kostic started. The rest was just, called for. Fagioli didn't have a good game, and Miretti did have a good game against Udinese, so he got his place back. And that's about it. I thought it should be enough against Empoli.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with you. Everything should have been fine. Empoli, this is kind of the thing that right now keeps coming up is Empoli, and this is why people think this was not a good game from Juventus, was because of Empoli's strengths and essentially not being a whole lot there. So the strength of opponent, right? But we're gonna obviously break that down a little bit further. We're gonna go through highlights and everything. First up, we gotta say what's up to everybody in here. Okay, so Alex P coming in here. Ciao tutti. Happy Labor Day. All right. James Lapierre in here. Don B. Buongiorno. Nice win yesterday. Going into the break, we'll talk about the break, what's to come after. Jay's KP here. Vidad. Ciao tutti. Skanga in here. Victory Monday. Let's go. Let's go. Mark's breaking out with a question right now, right out of the gate here. And it's five,
Answer
six
it.
years ago. Would we consider this a strong performance? Has our standards, expectations dropped?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, 5, 6 years ago, we have a team of, already proven players at top levels. Some played in Champions League finals, World Cup finals. We had like a really solid group. So obviously the expectations are higher. Now we have like a group of youngsters and some one-aways and some guys who still has a lot to prove. I mean, how many champions do we really have? in this team. Guys who actually won important silverware. Not a whole lot. So yeah, the expectations obviously drop when the team is not as good because the team we had 5 years ago would walk through this Scudetto race easily.
Yeah.
Um,
I think,
so we're looking for
honestly,
improvement. That's it.
here's the thing. You can only play who's in front of you. A strong performance, I mean, okay, maybe it's not a strong performance, but I'm saying a strong 90 because to be honest, over the past few years, there's been few and far between actual solid full matches where we were
Very
pretty much
few.
always in control. And that I saw as, I think actually this was a pretty classic Juve win, to be honest. Very, very business-like. And again, if we want to nitpick and everything, Empoli, sure, you want to call them weak? Well, did we not give them, like, they had zero opportunities on target. Their best attempt came in the 94th minute through Destro, and it was outside the area, and he still had a hell of a lot of work to do, chesting it down and trying to dip this thing beyond Perin and whatnot. That's their best opportunity. I mean, this was business. Like Juve could have had 5 to 7 goals in this game easily. So,
Yeah, we had
I,
two crossbars.
yeah, I would have to
Uh,
honestly say that I think that was a strong 90 for me, anyways. But
okay,
again,
look, we like to complain. Is there a lot to complain about in this match
I can't.
compared to other matches in last season?
My one thing is the finishing. That's it.
Of course, it wasn't a perfect game. Of course, there are points to make about stuff that needs to be better, but overall, it wasn't a tale of one half. And Juve, I mean, they dominated. We'll get to all of that shortly when we recap the match. But overall, we should take any points we have, and we can clearly see the teams are not balanced yet. I mean, Lazio losing twice, then beating champions Napoli. Inter are running riot. Milan. I mean, they're all over the place. Everyone. That's how the beginning of a season goes. So
Yeah.
just take whatever points you can because that's an awful time to drop points.
Yeah, for me, I'm just not really seeing the I'm just not really seeing anything to be terribly upset about. This we had to win this game. We were in control of this thing. It came down to us trying to finish this and seal it off early, and we couldn't get it sealed until later than we would have liked to, but man, it's not for lack of trying. And again, creation on the left side, creation on the right side. Miretti working nicely in the middle, linking things up. I don't know. Like, again, it just comes down to being clinical, which is not an issue this game in this 90 or whatever, but something that's followed us for a couple seasons now that we have to get better, and that's killing games off. But we're going to talk about all these highlights right now and get into it, and then we'll kind of break it down a little bit further after in terms of how we feel. We went through starting lineups. I agree with everything Omer said and whatnot. Now let's get to the highlights. 9 minutes in, okay, like 10th minute, Danilo heads it in off a little bit of a scramble there. Gatti heading it forward for him, and then he heads it into goal. It's called back, obviously, with interference on Berisha. Was a little soft, but he was interfering with the keeper and the play there. L'arbitro Nick just saying, as the ball was in the air, Empoli keeper jumped up. Danilo made contact with him, thus knocking him over. Immediately after, Danilo scores. I don't even think Danilo jumped. I think Danilo was literally standing there and he knew exactly what he was doing, and he was just trying to stand there and argue that he's got the right to that space, which he actually does. But again, Nick continues, we generally always see referees favor goalkeepers in these situations as usually the safe call to make. On the replay, you'll notice that Danilo did not jump in an attempt to head the ball and instead tried boxing out the keeper while hooking his arm. This demonstrates no attempt to play the ball, and this call was correct. My only question for Eroldi, the ref there, is why didn't he whistle the foul immediately? With any type of foul call on the keeper, it is better to just blow the whistle and get out of there before the ball ends up in the net. If Eroldi had done that, we wouldn't even be talking about it. So that's the only thing there that L'Arbitro Nick kind of knocks Eroldi for is letting it get to that point. So yeah, but we start off again. We're on the front foot and we're looking good while we're in the opening 10 minutes. We look dangerous almost every time we were getting up into that area of the final third. So it was a positive. 15th minute, this pissed me off because this was extremely soft on Locatelli, getting the early yellow. And this kind of, again, I'm a little easy. We're going to talk Locatelli. We're going to talk Rabiot in terms of performances and whatnot. But this was very, very soft in my opinion. Do you agree on that yellow, that early yellow to Loca?
Yeah, it looked bad, like a really mistimed challenge at first glance. But when I saw the replay, I mean, there was barely any contact. He got to the ball. That was a bit harsh. I, in general, I think the referees are a bit harsh with the yellow from the start of the season.
Yeah. And I know we're asking on news on Pogba's physical condition. There's not a whole lot in the news today, to be honest. We're waiting to figure out what's Pogba. We're still hearing back, and then we're hearing back of the leg is where he was clasping. So again, we're just waiting for some test results, which should come within the coming days. That's all we had heard so far. All right. Outside of that, in the news, there really isn't a whole bunch, to be honest. So it's literally Pogba watch, and now we go into international break. That's about it. Anything newsworthy outside of waiting for Pogba results there, Omer?
No, we are heading for the international break. So even if Pogba has something, he has a good time to recover. If it's nothing serious, we have the list of players who are going to the international games. So I'll just run through them. Chiesa, Lucatelli, Rabiot for France, Kostic, Vlahovic, Milik, Chesney for Poland, McKennie and Wea, USA. Danilo is the only one called for Brazil, and the youngsters Miretti for Italy U21, Ealing Junior U20 England U21, Ildiz U21 Turkey, and Huysen U19 Netherlands.
There you go. There you go. So there's the rundown. That's essentially it. Pogba watch and then international break. Now, the Locatelli yellow for me, it's never a yellow. Never a yellow for me. Matt agrees. Never a yellow. Anthony saying that was bad yellow on the ref there. L'Arbitro Nick says there are two things to decide in this play. First, was this even a foul to begin with? Locatelli gets a piece of the ball but does end up tripping the Empoli player on the follow through. Just because a player touches the ball first doesn't always mean there's no foul. However, it is for the referee to decide if Locatelli played enough of the ball or the man. Once it is established that there was a foul, the referee must show a yellow card in the situation for SPA, which is stopping a promising attack. This is technically supportable, but L'Arbitro Nick says, I'm skeptical as Eroldi certainly did not have a good angle to judge that play. So interesting there, because if you're calling that a foul, which he ended up doing, he has to give a yellow because of what's going on in the play and him stopping a promising attack. So I think it's, man, I think
Yeah,
it's
I
harsh.
mean, it's still in the Stone Age. I mean, all the yellow card stuff, because you can do nothing about it. You can review it by VAR, even if it's a second yellow that leads to a red card, it can't be reviewed. So it left to just what the ref have seen. And in these type of scenarios, if he takes another look, yeah, like Nick said, he might not even call it a foul. But
Yeah.
from where he was telling him, there's nothing you can do about it. You're just quick to whistle. Even the Gatti penalty, I think, was harsh. Like there was barely any contact, and he whistled immediately.
Yeah. The Gatti the Gatti penalty was harsh too. But he gets contact. We're gonna get there and whatnot, but contact is contact. So it's kind of like I knew when they were looking
Yeah,
at it,
but
it's
that he could have
contact.
checked.
Yeah.
He did check the penalty and decided it was a foul.
Again,
So I'll leave it
Eroldi's
there.
angle. He's on the opposite side of the area.
Yeah,
So
he
looking
didn't have a
across
good
like
look.
that, yeah, and seeing the defender first and stick the leg out, yeah, I wasn't surprised he called it so immediately. When you look at the replay, I said it's soft. There's minimal contact. However, there is contact. We don't have to start gauging how aggressive the contact is. He clipped him, goes down. It's not clear and obvious error, but we'll get to that too. 23rd minute. This is where Juve finally takes a 1-0 lead. Corner kick. Man, all our defenders were in there. Bremer, Gatti, and Danilo were the
Yeah.
three literally in the heart of this scrum. Falls out to Danilo, who puts it home. Capitano gives us the 1-0 lead. Nothing really much to say on this goal other than it came from, again, putting them under, pushing the ball deep into the final third. This is where Kostic earns the corner kick. And then again, those three guys are big on set pieces. Gatti is big on it. You've got Bremer and you've got Danilo, who are always in the mix, it seems. So there you go. Nothing really much to
I
say on this
think
goal. Hey, Omer?
a goal from last season. Those were the type of goals we
Yeah,
scored last season. But all involved, we were really dominant on both ends in the air. And I mean, corner kicks and free kicks. We might be the best in that department in all of Serie A. I mean, we have massive guys all over the pitch,
yeah,
especially the defenders.
yeah,
But nothing
absolutely.
more to add. Just skirmish in the area and just a goal. I'll take any goal.
Yeah. McKennie had a great opportunity in this match too in the first half. Getting to the outside, we were doing well of waiting for that overload, okay? And then switching it up, and McKennie had space to work with. Well, we found him in the top of the area, and he did the right thing, had a hit, put it through the defender's legs, but just hit enough of the leg to see it wide on the back post side, and that would have been a good one. I thought McKennie had a good shift in this one, but we'll talk more about that later. 36-minute, great ball movement from Juventus. Again, this is where McKennie ends up finding Gatti. I talked about this in the pre-match of why I like it when Gatti is in our lineup as opposed to him not, because he attacks the space even as one of those center backs. And he did so exactly on this play, and he helps us. He gives us an element of when teams are sitting back, he's not afraid to get up, push that space, and ask more questions of their defense. He does so here. He gets clipped, and we get the PK. Unfortunately, Vlahovic steps up, and man, this just barely doesn't squeak through the keeper, although I think he's going to want to hit a better PK from there. But unfortunately for him, Berisha makes us up. But now we could talk about this play and Gatti's contribution and getting up in there. Omar, your thoughts on this play and everything in the build-up?
Well, the build-up was good. I mean, McKennie was actually doing pretty well in attack all game long, and Gatti has like huge strides. I mean, when he notices the space and he runs into it, it's very hard to catch him for a defender who has to turn around and chase him, and he takes advantage of that. You know, not a whole lot, but when he has the chance, he does do that. I mean, we don't see that other center backs join the attack the way Gatti does, like really get into the area. And
Yeah,
even if he's through and he's not clipped down, that's a ball to the center. That could be a goal. I mean, it's hard not to like him.
yeah,
I should have hated him if he wouldn't have played for Juve. Gets clipped there, okay. I thought it was a bit soft, just watching the replay, but penalty is a penalty. And
contact is
Dushan,
contact.
yeah, he clipped
Yeah,
him. The referee has watched it. I mean, VAR has watched it. They decided it is a penalty, so
yeah,
it is what it is. And Dushan misses, unfortunately. Can't score all of them. No one has ever
yeah.
did.
It's not a terrible PK because a terrible PK
No,
is missing the net completely. So hitting upright or missing completely. If he tried to
the
send the
keeper gets
keeper
right.
the opposite way and play it close centrally, we see a lot of guys do that. So I wouldn't say it's a terrible PK. It only seems that way because of what ended up happening, which is Berisha not getting sent the wrong way, guessing the right way, and it not having just enough mustard to
And
get
I
through. But terrible PK, that's missing it completely. Like that for me
and
is a
I
terrible PK.
also I think Berisha is known for not guessing. So he's a relatively good goalkeeper in penalties, but it was a good shot. I mean, if you jump the other way, then it looks like a brilliant shot, just bottom corner and stuff. Tough break. The keeper guessed right, I guess.
Yeah. For me, the terrible ones are when you don't even hit the goal. Let's go back to like
Yeah.
Graziano Pele there, Zaza's freaking disaster. Like
Oh, that
those are
that might
terrible
have been the
PKs.
worst.
Jorginho not qualifying us for the World Cup, doing the same thing that's been figured out on him.
And if you
That's
and if you want
terrible.
to go further back, then Baggio at the '94
Yeah,
World
and
Cup.
should remember Baggio's PK in '94. That's a terrible PK. And I love Roberto Baggio, but those are terrible PKs. This one, not terrible
Considering
anytime you
the
hit the frame.
yeah,
But
considering what it was, I mean, World Cup
yeah,
final, and
so
we
Skanga
can
wrong
forgive him.
yet again, which is we're growing accustomed to. So we'll move on. We'll hear about El Arbitro Nick as we talked about that penalty and earlier, even before we got into it, talking about the contact and whatnot. Contact is contact, but here we go. El Arbitro Nick Eroldi awarded Juve a penalty kicked after Pierre Gatti was tripped. This call is actually quite simple to break down. Empoli defender sticks his leg out, certainly does not play the ball. There does appear to be some contact with Gatti's leg. Once again, the referee has to decide whether or not contact is enough to call the foul. IFAB laws are plain and simple here. Tripping an opponent is a foul, and when a defender sticks their leg out, misses the ball, makes contact with the attacker, this certainly appears to be a trip to call. Absolutely supportable, okay? Nothing VAR can do on this play unless there is a clear camera angle showing absolutely no contact. So like I said, again, contact is contact. The only way that was ever coming back is without it. But like I said, sadly, it didn't really amount to anything for us. Halftime, I thought solid half for us. I mean, we could have been 3-0 up. It wasn't, but overall, we didn't give anything to Empoli other than the perimeter, and they were forced to just cross it in, and their crosses were piss poor, to be honest. And Juve was able to just recover possession. I think they only had one spell of about 3 minutes where we struggled to find our men on clearances and stuff like that. But after that, it was fine. So I had no problems with the first half, and I totally expected us to take control in the second half. Omar, same thoughts on the first half as we get to the second half highlights and then all the goods?
Yeah, cross away. I'm not worried about crosses. We have tall guys there, even with McKennie, who has great head. So I mean, Juve really limited them, and it has become very very rare to see a match where you feel like the opposition we can play another 90 minutes and they wouldn't find a way in. And that's what it kind of felt. They had no answers. They had no target man. Baldanzi was the only one working hard. I liked Juve pressed a lot. I mean, Miretti was pressing really high with three men, helping Dushan and Chiesa. So I like what I saw. A
Yeah.
bit, some tweaks here and there. The final product still lacking, but the intention was good. The play was good. The setup was good. Juve didn't feel like they were backing down. Just there are moments in the match where you have to like take your foot off the gas to let the guys breathe. You can't press for 90 minutes. So I thought Juve handled it well, and it was a good first half.
Yeah.
The
Mark's got a
question that
question in here we're
follows,
going to talk about once we get there, and that's the inclusion of Paul Pogba and what happened to Juve's game. But first, we're going to talk about some second half highlights and whatnot. Obviously, there was an appeal for the penalty in the second half after McKennie had attempted to keep a ball in play with his head in the penalty area. Potential handball offense committed by an Empoli defender. Let's just pretend, for argument's sake, that it was a very clear handball on Empoli. Since in live time, the assistant referee ruled the ball went over the goal line for a goal kick. VAR also needs to establish that the ball never left the field of play before the handball. Since there was no camera angle that showed that the ball definitely stayed in play, VAR correctly decided not to intervene here. Okay, so we're still trying to figure out everything that was going on there. On the live watch along, I said the same thing. I think you're going to be hard pressed to find a camera angle that showed you exactly that ball had stayed in play when McKennie headed it back in. So that's just to speak to that particular instance. Again, Juve came out on the front foot in the second half. I like the approach. They were getting after it. 58th minute. My God. Chiesa does everything right. Megs Walukovic too, and just slots beyond Berisha, but can't get it in that far post. man, he was just like, I really needed him or Vlahovic to bag one in this because I think between the two of them, they deserved it. I liked a lot of what I was seeing from both of those players. But this one, unfortunately, doesn't fall in for him. 65th minute. So Pogba has entered the game at this point. Okay. Chiesa down the right flank, crosses for Vlahovic, beautiful chest down, and Pogba volleys this thing beautifully into the short side post, and I was ready to just explode. And I had a feeling Vlahovic was offside. He was about half a body offside, and that ended up calling back. But man, I was ready to just lose it for him on getting this one. Would have been an absolute beauty. Doesn't fall for us, unfortunately. Gets called back. 81st minute. Danilo clears the ball out. He was having himself a game. Clears it out, okay? Falls to Chiesa, who one touches it into Milik. Milik, the last defender back, decides he's going to press up on Milik. Milik waits his moment, sets Chiesa free and clear on a breakaway. And in classic Juve style, even on a breakaway, we have to grind this thing out and wait and put it in like inches inside of that post after he gets up after the contact with Berisha and whatnot. But he finishes it off, seals it, and just lays there for a minute to just like gather himself. But this was a great way to seal the game off. But yeah, that's a classic Juve style goal that even on a 1v1 with the keeper, we got to sweat it out till the end. Omer, nice sealer there for Chiesa, and deserved, I would say.
Oh, I love that goal. I mean, he had a choice to make. If he stays down, it's probably a red card for the goalkeeper. But it wasn't like one of those type of games where we need the opposition to go down to 10 men. The goal was in the air. It felt like it was coming. Too bad for Pogba, man. I didn't even finish my sentence because like about no fucking way. Oh shit, it's offside.
I know.
And that's how I felt. But Chiesa kept pushing forward. I think that celebration is going to be iconic. Just laying on the grass, face down after scoring. I think that would be iconic
And
someday.
everybody comes in, and obviously the dog pile on Fede there. But yeah, it was just a great play everywhere. Milik again waiting and sucking in the defenders, and then putting a great pass, as Animesh says. But and I'm yelling, hit it. The second Chiesa gets up and then runs back to the ball, and he takes those extra touches. Skanga cleared out here. The ball's on Fede there to take the extra 2 steps and have that tighter angle. But nonetheless, nice finish. Seals the deal. That's it. But we still had opportunities beyond that. Timothy Weah that had come in connects with Milik, who puts a nice header right off the bar. And then 94th minute, again, this was Empoli's best chance through Destro, chesting a ball down in front of Bremer, taking a hit towards goal. It was dipping very hard, but dipped beyond Pedin's goal. And then Keane had a chance at the end. Again, another Danilo clearance. Keane hugging that line of defense, last line there, and breaking through and then cutting inside and going short side with a shot, hitting the post. So again, a couple more opportunities there, but it ends there, 2-0 for Juventus. Now we can get to again all the thoughts and opinions on this match. For me, I said a strong 90. Obviously, we could see a little bit in the chat of some issues. We were talking about standards earlier, standards drop, expectations. For me, this was business-like. Again, when you have your opponent not register a shot on target, not register double digits in attempts. I don't think they did. They might have come close. I'll confirm that here in a bit. But when you do that and you are talking about wasted chances and being able to pump 5 in them minimal, I just don't see how it could be considered not a strong showing. It was business-like. For me, I'm going to say the same. It was a business-like performance. It was a strong showing. I had no problems with this other than the fact that we should have killed it sooner. But outside of that, I was happy with everything I saw, and we can get to the individual performances. But anything else to reiterate on the game, Omer, before we get to the individuals?
No, that was basically it. I mean, two disallowed goals, one missed penalty, one crossbar, one woodwork. I mean, You were
Eh,
all over Empoli. Yeah, they could barely get a sniff.
and just to clarify, that's it. 7 total attempts for Empoli, 0 on target. Okay, inside the area, they had 2 attempts out of those 7 inside the area. They had zero. Obviously, they didn't even get an attempt on target. They did not create a big chance. If you're looking at Juve, 18 total attempts, 5 of them on target. We had 4 big chances created, and we missed 3 of them. You've got 13 out of our 18 attempts inside the area. So these are some numbers that weren't really following us around last season, even against some weaker opposition. So, yeah, maybe just say that I'm being more optimistic because of what I've been seeing over the past couple seasons, but I find it hard to believe we can't be happy about that game, to be honest. That's just me. I think it was a strong
Yeah,
90.
I mean,
And
what do we need to satisfy the fans? I mean, strong 90 minutes. Yeah, we could have had like 4 goals, but eventually we won. And I said it earlier. I didn't feel at any point like Empoli are becoming dangerous and Juve should be worried. It's just a normal day, maybe classic Juve.
yeah,
Could have been more clinical, but third game into the season, I mean, things should get better. If Juve continue to play like this and create chances, they look like they had ideas, they had patterns. It looked much better than the game against Bologna. So
absolutely.
I was satisfied.
And now we can take a look at some of the individual performances. And again, I think we're nitpicking when you see the headline today from Gazette and it's like Rabiot, second game in a row where he's the lowest rated player. But again, I think the game just dictates that in this one yesterday. Him and Locatelli, they were fine being just the stability in the midfield. Miretti did like so much in terms of linking things up and helping us move the ball forward, get into that final third. We didn't need them to do anything over and above other than just again being stabilizers, keeping everything, winning the ball back and giving it to our outsides or Miretti and whatnot to just maintain pressure and put Empoli under. And that's exactly what Locatelli and Rabiot did. Win the balls back in the middle and distribute. And we could just cycle again and try to go back at Empoli. There's nothing more that has to be done. In terms of giving him a lower rating, whatever, Rabiot, it's fine. It is what it is. He's nowhere near my man of the match. And we can get into that. And of course, the man of the match segment sponsored by the Juventus official fan clubs North America. I got some great clips of the Toronto watch party. I know that Tony Trim was in there. All right, looked like a fantastic time at the Ferrari club there, and I'll be sharing those clips and whatnot. But let's get into it. Man of the match for me, I had 3 guys that were probably in the mix. Okay, and honestly, it would be between like Danilo, McKennie. I think Miretti can get a shout in there, but also Gatti. In the end, my man of the match, I gave it to Danilo, to be honest. I think you can make a shout for Chiesa too. He was in that mix too, so those guys. I give it to Danilo for me. He's my man of the match in this one. Omer, who's your man of the match?
Well, the goal might push Danilo up the ranking, but I want to give it to Gatti. And I will tell you why. Here are some stats. So he had, wait, I lost it. Okay, he had 100% successful dribbles, 2 out of 4 successful long balls, 3 out of 3 ground duels won, 44 touches, 29 passes completed, 5 ball recoveries, 4 clearances, 1 interception, 1 block, clean sheet, 0 fouls committed, and 1 penalty for you. I mean, those are clean stats for a defender to be that involved. That tells the tale of the match. This is why, mostly why Juve didn't concede any shot on goal. So I want to give it to him. I mean, 1 goal for Miretti or Dushan, and they might move up the ranking. Danilo is a fair shout. I mean, I could easily pick Danilo too, but I want to give it to Gatti because he came in after not starting the first 2 games, and immediately bossed the defense.
Yeah. Yeah, Gatti had a massive, massive game. I think, honestly, the guys across the back were all good. I mean, even Bremer. And when we talk about our offensive sequences on set pieces, all three of them were all in the mix. But yeah, Danilo, for me, got the game winner. He also, what was like not really being talked about enough, where his clearances were actually finding Juve players. Like the Chiesa goal is Danilo clearing it, but clearing it perfectly in Chiesa's path. And Chiesa's able to take that on a one touch and put it to Milik, and then we're gone. Danilo had another clearance earlier that almost would have ended up being an assist to Keane's goal and whatnot. So the guys at the back were massive. Gatti obviously drawn the PK, which should have been buried. Obviously didn't. Berisha, credit to him. These guys were massive. They didn't have to do so much at the back, but they were contributing in other facets as well. Now we can get to some outside performances. Miretti. Miretti is one that just kind of has fans split so heavily. Like, I don't disagree that the end product needs to pick up a bit. But in this game, he only made two mistakes. One was not getting the right touch in the top of the area in the second half. That could have been a good opportunity for us, whatnot. Hey, that happens. Happens to like everybody, is what it is. And in the first half, he took the touch of a ball, misreading where the defender was behind him, and he just easily took it right off his feet. Outside of those two plays, this kid didn't put a step wrong and did everything right. There's a the thing with Rabiot as well that I want to get to is when you watch Miretti play versus when Fagioli plays, it's night and day. It's completely different. So what ends up happening is Rabiot ends up almost making this two-man pivot type setup with Locatelli when Miretti is in there versus when Fagioli is in. It's night and day. It's completely different. But it doesn't mean that Rabiot had a bad game. It's just different, and everything plays out differently, right? And we're gonna get to like, I got the heat maps and everything. We'll take a look at the difference between Fagioli and Miretti in there. But I thought Miretti had a solid game. That's me, Omar. Do you agree with me, or are you on the side of the fence where everybody's saying, nah, he didn't really impress me much?
Look, if you go through Twitter, I mean, you couldn't make out what Miretti's performance was because it was very divided. So I'm on your side of the fence. I think he was great. It was like those little mouse toys that you spin their back and then they're just going off. And that's what I felt. He was everywhere. He was tracking back great. He was creating chances. He was driving the counterattacks forward. He was both on the left and on the right. I mean, Fajoli is like kind of hugging the touchline a bit too much. I think he had good link-up plays with all the players around him. Like you said, there are some things to criticize. He had two touches that he misplaced and lost the ball, but it happens to everyone. I think he still needs to be more physical. He gets muscled off the ball pretty easily, and so he has to pass it before someone comes onto him because then he loses it. But again, a 20-year-old, it will get better. And like I said, when we play with him, it feels like more of a 3-4-3 because he plays higher up and he helped the press a lot. They were pressing with three men, and suddenly Empoli couldn't get out of their comfort zone, which is
Yeah.
what teams do against us all the time. They find it easy to break the press, and Miretti aided in making it harder for them. I believe he will be better. There are types of games where you need Fagioli, but with him it's like Regista, Mezzala, Mezzala. With Miretti, it's like a two-man pivot and an attacking midfielder, and that's
Yeah.
the difference. In a game that we control, we need Miretti in there. And Pogba is a like for like for Miretti. The way he plays, more in the center, more up front than helping at the back. So I think there's a good mix there.
Yeah, so Vidad saying that I don't think Miretti had a good game. Always too slow, always takes too much time to head up and see where the game could go. He is more of a trequartista than Metsala, and it's pretty visible now. Well, that's just it. He's playing it kind of in that role, except we use him out on the side to get into that role and occupy it. It's like a hybrid thing rather than what I've been saying for a long time, which is play your two base pivots and put this guy in the center or whoever you want to play that role and come through the middle and just make that up and down, and then he can go left and right, whatever, support both sides. But again, we'll see on the heat map when we pull it up there. But and now Alex P saying, what does he actually do? Nothing he does leads to anything. He has a good cross from a set piece, but what else? Just running around. Well, it's not just running around if we're able to, again, get out of these scenarios where teams are trying to put us under. Like, that in its own is something. Running around, even asking questions of the defense. But that running around yesterday, he was found in pockets more often than he wasn't. McKennie did a good job. Miretti was the one finding him a lot of the times and getting it out to that right side when the overload was coming on the left. Like, it's funny to me. What I want, okay, what I want to see is Fagioli actually play in that manner because he has that end product. But what we see from Fagioli is him so quick to just go out to the sideline. Like, I'm the opposite. I'm starting to ask, what is Fagioli doing? Because I expect more from him because we know he's got that finishing touch and he can do that. But he's usually nowhere near any areas to cause damage. That's how I honestly feel. Do you feel like, is it just me, Omer?
No, we've talked about it earlier in the green room. I think that Fagioli will find himself further back and maybe stepping in for Lucatelli when he can, because I think his characteristics are better suited for that. But we gotta remember these are young guys. They're still finding their way. I think in attacking phase, Miretti is a bit quicker with his feet, with his turning and shifting the play to both sides. I don't think Fagioli does that. I don't think he has that agility in his feet like Miretti does. He has other qualities that benefit other parts of the match, but they are not similar players. That's why I find it hard to compare them. The only reason we do is because they play the same position, but I don't think that they're similar players, and there are stuff to gain from each one of them, and that's up to Max to find out where they suit best. I think that specific Metsala role is better suited for Miretti so far. But I think
Yeah.
Fagioli is phenomenal, and I would like to see him maybe try some other positions.
And now we have, the Fagioli does what Allegri asks him to do. Vedad, look, I don't need a defending of Fagioli because if you listen to what I'm saying, it's not because I don't think he can do it. I'm literally saying I know what he's capable of. But look at this heat map here and look at where he spends his time. Look at this. I don't need him out here. Look at Miretti with an even spread across the middle and in the area and whatnot. Like, this is where I want to see. These are the areas I want to see Fagioli demanding that ball, finding his space in there, and being able to be that link like Miretti, is trying and is providing. There's nothing stopping from Fagioli doing what Miretti does off the ball. There's nothing stopping it. If we get Fagioli in these sequences, Miretti constantly gets himself in. I'm telling you, it'll be better for Juventus in the long run. But Fagioli is like, more often than not, we just see him hugging this out here. And that's where he spends the majority of his time, and I don't need him out there. I don't need him out there. So
I think those are good problems to have. I mean, we're discussing something really good here.
it's a good problem, but I'm saying we're not getting the best out of Fagioli. This for me, Fagioli needs to be one of our quarterbacks essentially. He needs to be the guy on the ball like that. And I can't understand in my mind why Miretti can do that or is allowed to do it if we're saying that, some are saying in the chat that it's coming from Max Allegri. Okay, so if it's coming from Max, I still don't understand it. I don't understand why we can't have Fagioli play in that same manner, because I think the end product would be miles further ahead and better for us overall.
And look, let's not exaggerate. I mean, Fagioli played what, 58 minutes, 60 minutes? It's the third game into the season. Juve has kind of changed their tactics and they play different than they played last season. Some players will take time to find themselves. So I think the new way Juve play fits Miretti more, and he kind of figured it out earlier. But it's not a knock on Fagioli. He played, I don't know, 60, 70 minutes total for 3 games. That's not enough to gauge how a player's season is going to go. So patience. I
And
mean,
and
we're
that's
not
not
talking
what
about the
this
future.
discussion is intended at doing, but it's like we knock Miretti for, the Mprox, but he's doing a lot that I think we need. And when it came to this game before the match, the question was out there. Who do you start, Fagioli or Miretti? Well, 55% said Fagioli, but the rest that were saying go for Miretti were because of exactly what we saw in this game, which is exactly what shows up on the heat maps from one game to the last. And you can look at the games, and let's talk about Bologna match. What did Bologna do? Bologna took away the flanks, forced us through centrally, and we have one of our best midfielders hugging the sideline that is dead. That it is dead end. That's what I'm saying. I need more from Fagioli when he's in there. That's all. That's all. So it's not that Miretti is the be all end all here, whatnot, but what he does, how he gives us that option, which we saw today on a team that lined up the exact same way as Bologna. Okay, we have that central outlet, that central option. And it's not just on the right side, but it's right across left, center, and right. He mixes it up. Rabiot doesn't get as involved, and to some that may bother them or whatnot. But if you switched the players, is what I'm saying, and it was Fagioli in there, I think we would be happy to sacrifice Rabiot, because I think Fagioli would open things up for Vlahovic, Chiesa, everybody offensively if we get him in those moments, in those sequences, in those areas. That's just how I feel. That's just how I'm seeing it right now. I will continue to ask more from Fagioli and when he's in the lineup and how we're using him, because of what I think he's capable of. So it's definitely not a knock. If anything, it's I want to see what I know he can do. And if you look at his time with Cremonese and whatnot, he was playing in that manner. He was in that manner. He was in those areas. He was in those spaces. It can translate for Juve. It has to, in my personal opinion. That's just the Fagioli Moretti thing from my point of view. Omer, you can wrap things up on here. We'll get to the next some next players and whatnot.
Not a lot to add. I mean, I think we only just need patience, see how it develops and how Allegri finds the right places to put them. I mean, how long will until we see like Locatelli, Miretti, Fagioli midfield this season? Because I would like to see how that works. I think Fagioli and Locatelli would work well at like a two-man pivot, same job that Rabiot does. But the game against Bologna, I think, showed we really need another midfielder in the center, up top. We don't need both of them hugging the sidelines. If one does that, the other one needs to come inside and be more central. But I mean, patience is the key. We'll have to wait. It's only 3 games into the season.
Yeah. And it's we're getting into stats now. And Alex P is like, yeah, Moretti doesn't have maybe a couple assists, whatnot, but I wouldn't say Fagioli's numbers are exactly anything to write home about if we want to talk about numbers. What do you get? Like 3 goals? Couple assists in the entire
Yeah,
season? If that's where you think it's capped or happy with him, Fagioli, I'm not. I think there's I think there's way more we can get out of Fagioli, and that is what I'm saying. Okay. Now, McKennie, right wing back. Honestly, I thought he had a solid game, and I actually like him out there way more than I do in the middle of the park. Omer?
Yeah, I've said it from match day one. I think he's a better right wing back than he is a midfielder. I'm not saying he's the right wing back, but he's better there than he is in midfield, and he can contribute more. And that's about it. I mean, he almost had a goal yesterday.
Oh yeah, that would have been nice. Would have capped off a great move, and he did. He was just he just played it solid. He was good defensively. Maybe gave up a little too much as far as crossing down the side and whatnot. But to be honest, McKennie had a solid game. And again, get him out of the middle, keep him there as an option back up to Weah. I'm absolutely fine with it. No problems there. McKennie again. It's funny how some fans, when we get our minds made up on a player, it just kind of it still affects the judgment and whatnot because McKennie still has some knocks for him being out there and whatnot. But I thought yesterday he had a solid performance. Kostic, what did you think of Kostic's performance?
I thought it was fine. I mean, nothing too glamorous, but not bad. I mean, I think he did his job. He still offers little. I mean, he didn't cross whenever he had the chance. He was actually looking to get inside the area and play some low balls. Didn't make it, but I don't know. It wasn't bad and it wasn't all that good. Just solid showing. I mean, we didn't have a lot to offer from the left side because Cambiaso and Ealing are more dribblers and they take on their man. Kostic is more of like an engine. He beats players by physicality and by being able to sprint longer than them. I think he had some good movements. He wasn't rewarded for them. They took a bit of time to pass him the ball. Honestly, not a lot to say about it. Just mediocre performance on both ends.
And this is a interesting comment. And this is the contrast, right? So, don't agree. Love to see McKennie replace Miretti and wait on the wing. I see it against Real Madrid. I love it. Whatnot. Okay. So going back to the preseason game against Madrid when McKennie was playing out of the midfield, obviously contributing to that goal with Weah being on the outside, trying to get that American connection. Archaeology here coming in saying, I don't know if McKennie will be a backup if he plays like he did yesterday, may end up being a starter. Weah hasn't, yeah, it hasn't really translated for Weah yet. It's still very early in the season. But yeah, right as of now, McKennie's had the better showing, but it's also, we will say against Empoli and whatnot. I'm happy with the two of them interchanging. For me, whether we have disagreements on Miretti and Fagioli or whatnot, I'm sorry, but McKennie I don't put over either one of them. Maybe against a certain opponent, the time may call, depending on what happens on the other side in the midfield. But right as of now, I don't have him in there. Um, yeah, that's just one of those things. As far as Kostic goes, you could see the feelings there. And then Dell's bringing up when I was talking about some fans' feelings towards certain players. He brings out sounds like me and Quadrado. Hey, I gave Quadrado a lot of love, but it was time to move on. How did everybody like him hugging Lotaro there? And putting out a post, and in that post, it looked like Lotaro's rolling his eyes while hugging Quadrado. And I'm pretty sure a teammate put a silly little comment there in the post or something like that. Anyways, it's disgusting to see, but nonetheless, hope he fails miserably now where he is. But again, in the middle of the park, McKennie, he doesn't break through for me. It would depend on certain things. Pogba. So we had the question earlier on in the live chat came in from Mark, and we're going to get to it now. Do you see the game change? Did the game change drastically like when Paul comes in? How do you see things changing once Paul Pogba entered? And what are your thoughts when he was in the pitch? Obviously now we're concerned with his health. We have to wait to see what happens, but what were your thoughts when he came in?
Well, I think he puts the other team a bit under pressure because they don't want to give him any space. And when it's like Moretti with the ball. They don't send immediately 2, 3 men to mark him, which creates more chances. I think when Pogba stepped in, we really started creating, like every attack was dangerous. Um, I don't know exactly why, but there's something different. There's like an aura around him that other players are aware of, and they other managers are aware of, and they have different instructions when he plays. So I thought he was great, great seeing him back. I'm heartbroken he didn't get that goal, because that would have been massive. Um, Although rightfully so, he didn't get that goal, but still heartbreaking. I mean that's Pogba. That's what we wanted out of him, right? That's what we always said we were missing. Some
Yeah.
boss in the midfield, and attacking wise.
So we'll get to the comments here. So 100% change. Pogba, fantastic. Pogba is pure joy. Pogba is our classiest player, even classier than Fede Chiesa. Sam Pogba, wow, just wow. He can't even run any change of game. So Pogba at 70%. Again, it's something I said even when we signed him, and everybody that had the um, injury concerns and whatnot. I mean, it's valid and whatnot, but like, I still say the same thing I was saying back then. Like, he's just worlds apart in terms of quality from everyone we have. Like, it's disgusting. Nobody can ever question Paul's quality. It just unfortunately comes down to this health thing, and I am getting extremely concerned that he just won't ever reach 100%.
Yeah, because I mean, did he even play more than 30 minutes a match since he arrived? And I think 3 out of 4 times he finished the game injured again. If he can't play more than 30 minutes before getting injured, then I'm sorry, but that's just doesn't cut it for top level.
Yeah.
But if he can overcome that, he's hands down our best midfielder and probably our best player.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping it's nothing serious and he has the international break to rest a bit. And it seems like he was, getting back into shape a bit more than last season when he had those cameos. But it's frustrating. It sucks because he's not old. I mean, it's not like a 34-year-old player. He's still 29. Some players only peak at that age. Like, when did we sign Nedved? What was he, 30, 31 when we signed him?
I think so. I can't remember the
Yeah.
exact, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
it's just one of
it
those things.
sucks.
Like it's incredibly infuriating, and whatnot. And even if many saw, I don't think anybody saw it coming to this extent. Again, you touched on it. I mean, he's not old. Okay, he's older, but he's not old. Like these are usually prime years for guys. Most guys in football and whatnot. And unfortunately, it just hasn't panned out this way. When we look at again his quality and stuff, you look at that game yesterday, the touches are incredible. The quick feet, the dribbling, he had this sequence at the top of the area, it was unreal. And it's little things like that, but you're right, he keeps the opposition at bay. They always have to be aware of what he does. His finish was absolute class. I wanted it to stand so much, but again, can we bank on him? And this is why everybody laughed, okay, and everybody's like, "Oh, Al fell for this whatever thing on Pogba." Well, hey, number one, you guys know me well enough, and I don't care when you guys laugh at me. And just like today, when you guys say, "Oh, Moretti, you're totally wrong on it," I love it. I love that interaction. I love a bit of banter. You guys can laugh at me for certain takes. I don't care. It's all good. When it comes to the news, you guys know us well by now, and it's mostly driven by me because I don't rule out anything anymore when it comes to what we hear and stuff like that. And when we're hearing that news about Pogba may have some condition that has been known about, something ailing that they can't necessarily remedy, and it's just going to be going on and something he's going to have to deal with, is that incredibly hard to believe? Like, it's not for me. Like, why is it this guy's taken so long and we're still hearing 70%, not the 100%, a month here, another month here, another month here. It's not hard to buy into this. And now we're still waiting for the details because, like I said, We were hearing back, we're hearing leg, like we don't even know yet. But it's not that hard to believe. And the sad thing is for Juve, he is our classiest player. And I agree with the comments in the live chat. But my question now is, do we have enough insurance? And I've been asking this when that rumor came out about the back ailing thing. I used it as a question, as a talking point, as a hypothetical. Should Juve have pushed harder to find insurance for Paul Pogba, or do you think we have enough amongst our ranks? That's my question to you and the live chat right now. And
In
sorry
a
for the
season
messing
like
about. We got a new kitten. Okay, this is Nina, everybody. All right. And she's just jumping all over the office here. Omer, I
okay,
think you're
so
muted, buddy.
no, I'm good.
Okay.
Um, Pogba. I mean, how much would an insurance for Pogba would cost? That's the main question because we all know the summer market was, I mean, a financial one. An insurance for Pogba wouldn't be something cheap, not salary wise, even if it's something, a free transfer. And in a season like that, where we don't have any European play, and it doesn't even go to the international games, I think that's a waste of money. I think we have enough in our ranks, to fill up the spots left. I mean, even without Pogba, we kind of finished third last season. He had like one assist,
Yeah.
and that was in the Europa League. So even without him and with a very weird and bad squad last season, we still managed to finish in the top four, mathematically. And so no, I wouldn't go for like a Pogba insurance. I think we have enough of that in our ranks to fill the gap.
I I said throughout the Mercado I would have loved to see an insurance piece on Paul and maybe some other moves like a McKennie going or even a Moretti loan if it meant bringing in a more solid someone you could bank on as insurance for Paul. I would have loved that. Do we have enough amongst our ranks? It really depends on, again, I'm going to go back to what we were talking about before. It's kind of interesting how I always tie things in, isn't it? Hey, not my first kick at the can here, but Fagioli, I think Fagioli can be that guy for us. I really, really do. I think he can be the guy, and I think we have to integrate him more and have him have more influence on our games. And this shouldn't come as anything new because the kid said it himself. He had a great, solid little interview. I think it was 2 days ago. You might be able to correct me if I'm wrong on that, Omer. I think it was 2 days ago.
Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah, it was a great interview. He said all the right things, and he says it himself. I can score goals. I can score goals. I could set them up, but I need to find those areas more frequently and get involved there. We see it in training all the time. He's got to get in there to where that counts. He's scoring worldies in training. It's gotta start counting for us on the pitch where it matters the most. And I think during the games, and he can do it. I think we're okay in the midfield. I would have loved some more insurance for Paul, but I'm gonna hang on the fact that I think Fagioli will take a big step this season. And I think he's going to be, from where we're talking about now, I think it's going to be night and day come the end of the season because I do expect breakout status. Okay, that's just me. Do you think I'm right on that, Omar? Do you expect the same?
I hope so. I mean, we are banking on Fagioli, and we really want him to succeed and be like another Marquisio. I think he can do it. I think it will take a bit more time, and again, we need to be patient, very patient with the youngsters, and give them time to develop. I mean, he was great at Cremonese at Serie B.
Yeah.
It's a whole different story, and we saw glimpses of that last season. We did see what he could become, but it's still not consistent. So safely, slowly but surely, he will take that spot eventually.
Yeah. And that's just it. I agree. Fagioli's got everything it takes. I could see it do it. Samardzic, man, when the rumors hit, this would have been a solid pickup in my opinion. But again, you would have had to loan somebody out, find a deal. This would have been great. And the details on the deal were fantastic. Would have loved it. But Pogba, it's tough. So for Ricardo, who's just coming in here, the latest update is we're still waiting to find out, number one, if it is back, if it is leg. It looked like it was a leg injury. It looked like an awkward twist. The way Paul moves in general, and I said this during the live watch along yesterday, is very awkward because of his frame, his build, and everything. So nothing really looks clean. But man, that looked pretty nasty, and it looked like there was an issue there, and he was limping significantly pretty quickly after that. So nobody knows the status until we wait. A couple days we're on Pogba watch. We go into the international break, everybody. Okay, international break, and then we are gonna have Lazio right after. So Lazio is classic Lazio fashion, starting off the season, dropping two games that they should be winning, and then beating the champions and looking good in doing so. And we're gonna face them right after. This is gonna be our first like actual measuring stick match, I think, for us, Omer. Real quick, obviously it's still a ways out. We got to get through the international break, and your thoughts going into that one right after the break.
The Lazio one, Lazio are always tricky. I never know what to expect from them. You can get them on a bad day and you score three past them, and then suddenly you meet them in a like a Super Cup final or something, and they become like prime Real Madrid. It's very hard to
Exactly.
gauge how Lazio would play.
Exactly.
Each match is different with them,
It's gonna
and
be
I hope we can do that.
it's gonna be
It will be a
interesting to
good
see,
boost.
but I'm jacked for that one. I would have liked to not have that one right after this break. I would have liked for us to carry on from this into it in like a week's time, whatnot. We'll see what ends up going down, but that is going to be a big one. It's going to be a big one. And I believe that the Derby della Madonnina is actually during that next round of matches, too.
Yeah,
So there's
it
going to be
is.
some major implications at that level of the table right now, okay? But when we go about ourselves, 7 out of 9 points here going into the international break. We would have loved perfect, but for me, 7 out of 9 was a minimum as far as points go. So I'm okay with this start overall. Again, that Bologna game, we're going to want back, I think, big time. But we didn't manage to drop all the points there. 7 out of 9 right now going into the next round, which will be a big one. And Napoli drop it to Lazio. Things are going to be interesting. And I think they're going to be interesting the whole way through the season. Everybody storm the barn. Okay, we got time for a quick storm the barn session. You got questions, fire away there. Tony Trim coming in here saying, I worry about a sloppy start against Lazio, obviously coming off the break and whatnot. So we'll see what happens. Right now it's international break, so we're just hoping that list that Omar gave us on the players heading to international duty. Right now, it's all about the health and just coming back healthy and no injuries right now. So knock on wood. That's what it's all about. Omar, do you have something you want to bring up that maybe we didn't touch on through the pod as we wait for some Storm the Barn questions to come in?
I had something, but I can't remember right now. Uh, what was it? I actually had a good question. Mm, okay, let me think about it.
I'll let you
While
think about
we,
it. We've got Anthony say, please acknowledge that I won the prediction challenge against you, Mooks, again. Yeah, Anthony, even a super old ass broken clock is right twice a day. Congrats, man. Congrats. No, he nailed it. 2-0. I mean, you only got one goal scorer, right? So I don't know how jacked up he needs to be, but whatever. Cool, man. Cool. Mark,
live with that.
let us not forget that our first three encounters were supposed to be a sure win. Do you think that the 2 points against Bologna will haunt us at the end of the season?
I don't think
Um,
so. I mean, it's very hard to look back at games early in the season and say, yeah, this was the moment that cost
yeah.
us. this and that. Even because last season we dropped points against, who was it, Sampdoria, in the second match. It was like a 0-0 draw or something, and we never talked about it afterwards. We mentioned Monza, we mentioned Cremonese, we mentioned a host of other games that we dropped points, but those at the beginning of the season are kind of forgivable for fans.
I would take a look at like the opponent. So like Bologna, I think could be that team that maybe pisses off some of the other top clubs too. So I don't think we're necessarily gonna really be haunted by a draw to Bologna, to be honest. Even though, yes, I think ultimately we should have won those three. I think Bologna has the potential to piss some of those other teams off too. So I don't think we'll be haunted by that particular draw. So my immediate reaction is no, but of course things can change dramatically. We're 3 games into a season. Who knows, right? But
I
I don't
mean,
think so
the
because I think
games.
Bologna will piss some teams off.
I think the games you eventually remember and said that they cost you something are the ones where you were dominated completely, or the ones where you almost won and should have won and dropped points because of a referee decision, or just couldn't finish the match with good opportunities. Not the one. That match was relatively balanced. Like the first half was all Bologna, the second half was much better from us, and we could have also won it. So I don't think that specific one will be remembered as the one that cost us something.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go with the next one, which is what player from other teams in the league would help us out the most? That's an interesting one. So, any player from Serie A you could insert into Juve squad right now, Omar, who do you take?
Mm, it's a good question. Well, the obvious answer is Osimhen.
I
I
was
mean,
literally going to say, do we swap out
yeah,
our striker and just take Osimhen?
yeah. I mean, the guy is a beast. He's a great finisher. Give him some of the chances yesterday, and that's a goal. I mean, he finishes with 2 goals at least. But let's not go for the obvious. Let's look for something a bit different. Maybe Leao. I would go with Rafa Leao. I mean, partnering Chiesa, have two really strong wingers. That might be massive. Luis Alberto from Lazio, I think, is a brilliant player. Um, if we go further down the table, well, I don't know. Maybe no, I have no one right now.
Man, you know what's funny? Is like, and I'll probably get blown up for this because it's not the flashy name or whatever, but maybe like a Di Lorenzo goes a long way for Juve.
Okay, so
But
here's a question: how do you feel? How does everyone feel about Di Lorenzo becoming the Italy captain?
I'm fine with it. I have no problems with it. I think, like,
Yeah,
honestly, man, this guy is as close to you can come to this two-way fullback that's effective in both facets. That everybody has like these top fullbacks, the flashy ones offensively, but they suck defensively. If you're looking at Di Lorenzo, man, he's solid. He's solid defensively, and he can give you that offensive contribution. I think you slap him on the right side for Juve, we got a whole different ball game of what you're dealing with. But obviously, Osimhen, you take Leao's a great shout. All these guys offensively and whatnot. But man, what I do to have a guy so solid on both ends, and it pains me that he plays obviously for Napoli and whatnot. But man, I actually like Dilo quite a bit, and I'm happy for him to be captain of the Azzurri. I have no problems with it whatsoever. Your thoughts on him? Do you think he'd have a big impact on Juve? First off, or am I just way out to lunch?
on Juve, on
Yeah,
Italy.
on Juve.
Who, Di Lorenzo?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, he's very solid. I mean, consistent player. He rarely has bad showings. Um, he did win. He was part of the back four that won Italy the Euro 2020. He was marshaled by Chiellini and Bonucci, so that's like a good place to learn from how to be a captain. And he was solid. He was a very important part of that team. Kicked some of the other guys out. I mean, once he played the first match, there was no question he was the one to stay there. He has a good connection with Spalletti. Spalletti trusts him. And honestly, if not him, who, who else? Who would you
Yeah,
choose as Italy's captain?
yeah. And Teo Hernandez getting a ton of shouts there and whatnot, but it's funny. I got him in my Fantacalcio, but I'm not
Mhm.
really the biggest fan of his or whatnot. My Fantacalcio, by the way, this weekend, eesh, mamma mia, unreal.
Oh, I
Look,
had some good one.
man,
Scamacca got me
Lotaro
some
coming
points.
out by Dells and then immediately followed out by Alex P on Bandels there. Love that.
Come on.
But it's interesting to hear who everybody thinks would have a big impact on Juve and whatnot. Marcus Thuram has come up. I always said I liked Marcus Thuram, and if we had an option, I would have loved you. He could play right across in the top three and whatnot. I always like admired him, and I like the way he plays. I like his build. I think he could create a lot of problems and has a lot of potential. But nonetheless, I have no problems with our roster currently. Storm the Barn from Mark. Do you think we should continue with the three-man defense of Gatti, Bremer, and Danilo for the rest of the season? Yes. Hell yes. From me. Omar?
Okay, so you know my opinion about the three-man defense, but if that's the way we're going, yeah, hands down, Gatti, Bremer, Danilo. I don't think Danilo is as bad as people make him out to be on the left. Maybe he's a bit better on the right, but the counter to that would be playing Sandro there, so hell no. Yeah, I think that's like our best combination in defense.
Yeah, I just for me, I can't get behind, and I said this before with Sandro, I can't get behind just having him out there because he's a left-footed player at left center back, and I saw it yesterday. I don't care if it's Empoli because I saw it through the preseason. I've saw it even before last season. Danilo is only an issue for me on the left side when he's completely out wide on that sideline. As a left center back, I have no problems with Danilo playing there.
I mean, the
I
weird thing is that Bremer actually played the left center back for Torino, but it didn't quite work out for him at Juve. I think it was tried there for like 2 or 3 games and just didn't sit well with everyone, and we agreed on it.
But I think
But
it's also
maybe,
like it's also the guys that we had like so when they tried to do that, Bonucci is fading out fast and we all saw that,
yeah.
right? And then if you're going to have Bremer and then you have these other center backs, he's the guy cuz these guys are makeshift center backs. So Sandro, Danilo, these are all makeshift center backs. So it comes down to Bremer being a true center back, and he takes the heart of it, and I'm fine with that. But for me, this has to be our back three moving forward. Um, and I see that we're just waiting. I think there's something coming out on Pogba, or has come out on Pogba really quick here. And Romeo
Mhm.
Agresti's also talking about it, and he talked about it on his YouTube, just saying in terms of Pogba, when you spend so much time inactive and you play again, it's not always rosy. We were talking about a player who has faced many problems. We can't imagine Pogba will suddenly play 3 games in a row of 90 minutes in October or whatnot. I don't think anybody's thoughts were at that level or whatnot, but yeah, still see. I'm still waiting. Gigi Buffon's got a big interview here. Coming out with the Azzurri and whatnot. I'm still waiting to see this announcement. So apparently Pogba has not suffered anything serious,
Well, to be
but
honest, it didn't look like that. He did have like a positive post on Instagram afterwards. It's not something you usually do after you sustain a bad injury. So I think he knows it's not that serious, but maybe he does need the rest a bit
yeah,
and
it's
still need to be
everything in terms
analyzed.
of Pogba. It's always magnified and everything like that. But
But
I'll wait
but
for
when someone
the
gets injured, yeah, we'll wait for the official announcement by
yeah
Juve. But when someone has a bad injury, I mean, you immediately see it. All the reporters are reporting it immediately afterwards. What are the first, fears that everyone has? You see it on the player's face. Um, so I don't think this was a serious one. It didn't look like it,
yeah.
at least.
Yeah. We're going to have some fun wrapping things up and whatnot. I want you to assemble your best, like your midfield, personally, Omer, from all the players that played at Juve that you have seen play. Assemble your midfield if you could handpick out of players you've watched play for Juve.
Okay, so let's go with three. Um, okay, it would probably be Pirlo and Zidane are a lock in there. The third position, I'm struggling between Marquisio, Vidal, Davids, and who else? Deschamps was phenomenal. I love Delivio. I mean, there were some great ones, so I'm thinking of like a good combination of traits between them. And so yeah, I think I'll go with James here. I think Zidane, Pirlo, Vidal would be a great mix-up.
Yeah,
Vidal at
I
Juve. I mean,
was
I know how his career turned out to be, but at Juve, he was phenomenal. He was a great
I'm
midfielder.
torn on I'm torn on Davids and Nedved as my third for me. Because Zidane and Pirlo absolutely make it, and to be honest, I gotta go with Nedved. I gotta go with Nedved as my third midfield for me. So it's Zidane,
Really, I
Pirlo, Nedved for
consider
me.
him a winger. I
What's
consider him a
that?
winger. Like I consider him a winger. Like if I have
I
to
know,
put
but
out the
it was
best 11,
mid.
yeah, he
Him and
did play there.
Camoranesi made the outside mids essentially and whatnot. So I throw
Yeah,
him in there. It's Pirlo, Zidane, Nedved for me.
yeah,
Look at all these.
and I
So
can
Zidane, Pirlo, Davids. That's a great like Zidane,
yeah,
Pirlo,
I can
Marquisio,
easily pick
Zidane, Pirlo,
Davids.
Pogba, Pirlo, Vidal, Nedved. Yeah, and then archaeology lose out Vidal over Davids. Mark's going with the four-man mid, Zambrota thrown in there, Zidane, Vidal, and Nedved. And then archaeology saying I consider Nedved a winger too. Okay, sure, sure. If I take him out, then I would go David, Zidane, Pirlo for me.
If I have
Okay.
to like put the best Juve starting 11 from the ones I've watched, Nedved will be there on the left as a winger. But
Yeah.
I do remember him playing centrally and makeshift positions when guys were missing. But we did have some great ones. I mean, Deshaun, for whoever didn't watch him play, he was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Conte
Two,
was great as a midfielder. I mean, there are a lot of names we can throw out there.
three forwards you've seen play, not all time at Juve. Three forwards you've seen play
Oh,
for your trident.
that's a tough one.
You want to know mine?
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
play it
go
as
ahead, please.
a 10 with two up top, and it's always going to be Roberto Baggio, Del Piero, and Trezeguet.
Okay, so I've barely watched Roberto Baggio play for Juve. I've seen him play for Milan afterwards and some other teams, but I've barely seen him play for Juve. Uh, I mean, I'm torn. It's not easy to choose. It could be Viali. I could go with
I know Viali
Tevez.
hurts me to leave out.
Yeah,
Love the guy,
Tevez,
but I will
Dybala.
never break up ADP and Trez. Just massive for me. And then
Yeah,
Baggio in behind, or yeah, lights out.
that's the thing. I mean, if Del Piero is in there, I kind of have to put
If
Trezeguet
you
in there
tell
too.
me I have to play two wingers and a striker, though, then it changes completely.
I would play if it's two. I would go with either Del Piero Trezeguet or Dybala Higuain. Those were
Yeah,
like great mix-ups. Um, but overall, it's hard for me to leave Tevez out. Maybe I'll put Tevez in
I
there.
know Tevez was a beast for you.
Yeah, Ronaldo could easily be in there. Mandzukic, one of my favorites ever. I mean, painful to put him out too. So let's go with Del Piero, Tevez, and Trezeguet.
Solid, solid.
Yeah.
Look at all these options. That's fun. I always love these ones. They're fun. Love the fun kind of fantasy questions and all times and whatnot. Mandzukic, what a beast! What a beast Mario was. Mr. No Good. Loved him. Loved him. Storm the Barn. We got another one. Why is the performance of Locatelli considerably decreased during these last 2 years? I'm sure he can do better. Who can replace him? Okay, so we kind of
So we kind
talked
of
a little bit
discussed it.
about Locatelli last or this past preview for the Empoli game. We can dive into this because I've got quite a lot to say on Locatelli. But Omar, let's get your thoughts on Loca. And this is probably where we're gonna wrap up. But if you have more Storm the
Yeah.
Barn questions, fire them away because we'll cover them in green rooms or next show and whatnot. So, and keep in mind, everybody, we're probably even through international break gonna have call-in shows midweek. Okay, so that's an opportunity for all you to come in and say what's up. You could just say even words of support for us, or just give your thoughts on any topic, even past Juve or current Juve. Okay, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. Omar Locatelli.
So we had a similar question last week after the Bologna match, and we kind of covered it. So I'll just go through it again quickly. I think it's more of a tactical issue. I think defensively, not one of our midfielders does the same job as Lucatelli, which is important. He won't be Pirlo. I mean, if that's what we're expecting of him, then I guess we will be disappointed in the end. I think he kind of struggles to find his feet, attacking wise. Defensively, his positioning is great. He's always dives into tackles. He blocks a lot of shots. I think he lost a bit of confidence in trying those long balls and long passes that he used to do. And probably the formation doesn't really suit him. We always say that. I think in a double pivot he'll do much better. As for guys to replace him, I would go with any of the three. I think Fagioli would be great there. I think Rabiot could do very well there. And Nicolosi Caviglia, I mean, that's maybe part of the reason he stayed and wasn't loaned out, is because they are looking at him in the same way. So that's my answer.
I number one, like, the performance of Locatelli considerably decreased during these last 2 years. So number
I
one,
think
I
they
kind
have.
of went over this even at Sassuolo and the way they played and everything. I went over this I think yesterday on the match day live or the preview match. His numbers are barely off where he was at Sassuolo for almost the same amount of games. I think he had maybe three more goals, maybe four more assists. It's not, he wasn't blowing things out of the water off, like as far as the numbers go, right? In terms for us, his role changed tremendously, and what he's done defensively is miles ahead of what he was doing at Sassuolo when it came to the defensive side of the ball. So I think I wouldn't necessarily say has it decreased. I think it's changed more than anything. But having said that, for 2 years playing in this position, I am starting to expect that next step and start to evolve, start to have more of an influence in games. So for that, I am starting to watch Locatelli a little bit more and wanting him to kind of start to elevate and start to be that guy. Okay.
Yeah, I
Can he do
think
better? Yeah, he said it. We know it. He's capable. It just needs, again, he needs to start taking these steps and elevating. Also, though, I think it has to be noted how we play. How we play, what changes his particular role. When Miretti's in the game, we see where we want to get the ball and who we want to kind of control and distribute and whatnot. Locatelli and Rabiot yesterday won the ball for us back and gave it to the outsides or Miretti or Chiesa. That's what they're doing. So, in terms of that, can we say he's not doing his job? I don't think you could say that. Do you want more? Sure, we all want more. But in terms of how we are playing and whatnot, he's doing his job. He's doing his job to a more than acceptable level, I think, when you just look at what we are asking. Who can replace him in terms of when he needs to come off? I agree 100% with Alex P that Fagioli needs to be forward, and I wouldn't want to see him used in that role. Hans Nicolucci Caviglia can do it, and I think we will see it. I don't know when, but we'll see it. And I think I'd go with Hans Nicolucci Caviglia, to be honest.
Yeah, I would note that we only seen him at Juve under the same manager. This is the third season of Allegri. And since he arrived, he's been, I want to say, stuck in the same position. So I haven't seen a whole lot that position plays to some of his traits, but decreases other. I would like to see him under different manager, try different things with him, because at Sassuolo we had like, I don't know, two or three different managers, and it kind of elevated his game. De Zerbi used him differently, and that's the Sassuolo we are talking about, the double pivot one. So we've only seen him under Allegri. I want to see him under another manager too.
Yeah. But this
Because
is it too. And
Under Mancini in the national team, he was great.
so Dell's saying I can't base it on, I'm not basing it on stats, but I'm just saying it plays to your last comment. He looks more a workman-like player rather than a dictator. I don't think he was even a dictator at Sassuolo. And I think the numbers kind of showed like he wasn't a dictator. I don't know what everybody anticipated or expected with Locatelli. He came in and he's done his job. But again, if I'm looking at how Sassuolo played compared to how we play and what we are asking of the roles, it's completely different. It's completely different. So again, I still say, having played in this role for 2 years, there has to be a next step taken. He has to take that next step,
Mhm.
you know. But
Yeah.
for me,
Alex, I can be serious. That's what I've seen from him. He's done well in the games that he played under Mancini. Sorry, that's just the way it is. I'm not saying that it's going to be the be all end all for him, and Mancini and another manager will get better things out of him. But I would like to see him under different managers, maybe in a bit of a different setup. And one more thing, I mean, I actually don't know what to expect from him too much. I'm still waiting to see where his kind of game goes.
yeah,
And I'm still gauging him.
he's what, 25 years old?
I think it should be this season. Maybe it already is, but I can
Luca's
check it.
25 years old. So, I mean, yeah, that next step's got to come, and it's got to come pretty soon. I like the guy. I'm a fan. Um, I look at what we're asking of guys across
Yeah,
the
25.
board, the roles and how we play. There's a lot that believe Locatelli is a Metsala. I'm not buying it. I don't see it. At Sassuolo, you want to talk about looking better. He's a two-man pivot. That's what they played. That's what the Derby played there. It is what it is. He's a two-man pivot all day.
And
It's
let's
everybody's, and
remember,
even Lucci and I disagreed as to what's closer to a two-man pivot out of our setup. Lucci says Metzala. I say Regista. I think Regista is closer to a two-man pivot style and what we're doing. And again, if what we're doing yesterday is the way we want to go, and you want to make a two-man pivot out of Rabiot and Loca, that's fine. If you want to use Fagioli in that role advanced, and you give him some freedom, and he can find those pockets and be that guy, I would be all for it, because I think it would be game breaking for us, and we wouldn't even be talking about Locatelli and influence. So
yeah, and let's
again, I think the bigger issue is who we have influencing and how much influencing they're actually doing, as opposed to the guys we're just picking out and saying, I want him to be the influencer, and not actually applying it to how we play. Hopefully that makes sense, because I kind of might have mixed it up there, but
Mhm.
hopefully that makes sense out of what I'm trying to say is I think
Yeah,
we're looking for answers that don't necessarily make sense basically in how we are playing on the pitch. That's kind of how I feel.
yeah, and we need to remember who was there before him. I mean, even though he's not like the world class player, a lot expect him to be. He's not Arthur. He's not Bentancur. I mean, he did elevate our midfield the second he came in.
Yeah.
Maybe not a Rodri or a Busquets or whoever, but still better than what we had. That was the first stone that was put out there to make Juve's midfield better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's this Loca thing's not going to go away though, everybody, and we're going to keep tabs on. Like I said, I mean, it's fair to ask for a little bit more, but again, I think we do still have to consider, and it's no different than what I said earlier, based on Rabiot. Rabiot getting some headlines for being in 2 games the lowest rated player, but I think the games dictate that and what we're trying to do and how we're playing. So I have no problems with what Rabiot did yesterday. I think he was fine. I wasn't talking about him. Oh man, he's the lowest ranked. No, he did his job. His job yesterday was win the ball and get it either to the outside or again Chiesa or Miretti, and they did that. So I have
If we
no
if we
problems with it.
scored 10 goals, there's always had to be someone with a low ranking. Even if we score 10 goals,
Yeah,
someone would be with a lower ranking. Was he
absolutely, and
bad?
I
No,
agree. I
I
think
didn't think
Rabiot
he
had a
hurt
good
our
game
play.
yesterday, but again, he comes out with a low
Fine.
score. It is what it is.
I'll,
Skanga
I'll give
saying
him
that
the same
Locatelli will
thing I
excel
said.
under a different manager. I don't know. I think again, it just comes down to how we are playing and who you are asking to do what, and we'll see from there. But time will tell with all things, everybody. This wraps up today's session. Again, Victory Monday. We go into international break. Wishing all the best to Paul Pogba. Fingers crossed on all our international players on duty that they come back to us in good health. We got Lazio after the break. We're still going to bring you a live show through the international breaks, maybe a couple. Okay, so again, enjoy the break, but we'll still see you around. Keep your eyes peeled for a midweek call-in show. All right, as always, thank you all for the support. Like the video on your way out. Drop a comment after it is done. And Omer,
We will, one last thing, we will be covering Italy for you, both in the news and go through it here. Italy are playing North Macedonia and Ukraine. So expect that whoever's interested. We will be here to talk about that too.
there you go. We'll cover some international stuff. Yeah, probably Azzurri as well, as the majority of us support the Azzurri, and we'll see how it goes. But everybody, take care. Enjoy your weeks again. Happy Labor Day for all of you enjoying the long weekend, all right? And we'll talk to you real soon. As always, fino alla fine. Forza Juventus. Ciao tutti. Take care, all right? I love playing North Macedonia. I don't want to talk about North Macedonia. I
If
really,
Pandev
really
isn't
don't.
playing, I don't watch it.
Yeah.